I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions, we all have so many different transitions in our life. And I like to use the metaphor of triathlons, something that I've been doing, let's say 12, 13 years. And in a triathlon, first you get in the swim, and then you get to the transition area, and then you get on the bicycle. And then you get to transition area, and then you get to the run. And that is a great metaphor for what do we do in our lives? So many different things, so many different roads that we go, that we reach to different areas, and who knows? So we have a fascinating guest, and this is the second show that we have done. Our guest is Reverend John McClain, who is the current minister at the Unity of Nashville in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. And John, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah. We did a whole show on all your background. And this show we're going to be talking about more of philosophies, but I want people to know, if they haven't seen the other show, just a little background. And if you could get the kind of our speed background of, you started in New York State,
yes.
And then?
Okay, the 30-second version of this?
Yeah, the 60-second.
Okay, born and raised in the suburbs of New York City.
Yeah.
Graduated from college in Washington, D.C. Spent 6 years working at the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency. During the late 70s and early 80s, I moved to California, where I was in the specialty artistic woodworking business, and then in the food service industry, where one learns many important life lessons.
Food service and the...
Yeah, I was a bartender.
Yeah, a bartender,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a bartender in a saloon. Yeah, yeah. Marvelous preparation for being a minister. I often tell people, I don't know how you could be a minister if you haven't been a bartender or a musician or worked in television. I just don't know how you could do it. But after that, I was blessed. I got to work in TV as a staff producer on a primetime show called Matlock during the 80s
and that's
90s.
Matlock with Andy Griffith.
With Andy Griffith's show, yes.
The
it was a
big
lawyer
time.
Show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at Fox Network as a primetime programming executive for several years. And after that, in our world, we say I received a call to service and wanted to pursue ministry, so that involved continuing education. I went to graduate school in Oakland, California, which was a privilege to live in Oakland. It was a grand place. Most people don't know that.
It's kind of the stepchild of San Francisco.
You would think, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a marvelous community with a great heritage, and it's a vibrant place to live. It's tremendous. And then from there I went to Unity School in Kansas City, which is another great American city that most people think. It's kind of like, who would live in Kansas City? But oh my goodness, it's a wonderful, fun, sophisticated town. And from there, I was ordained at a Unity School, and first came here to Nashville, Tennessee, as an associate minister, where I am in the church. I like to say I'm not the senior minister, I'm the prime minister.
Oh, the prime minister.
Yes, where I am. But I've also had churches in Bellevue, Washington, which is suburban Seattle, and in Los Angeles, California.
In Los Angeles, it's actually religious science.
That was Religious Science Church. Right on Sunset Boulevard in L.A.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy, very, very happy to be back in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hear through the grapevine that because of your efforts and the church that you are heading up here as the prime minister, it is growing. More families are coming. It's really becoming more vibrant due to your energy in it. And I really wanted to have you talk about the faith of the Unity Church and the tenets of that. So people may not understand what's called a New Thought church, like religious science, unity. A little background on that.
I'd love to talk about that. The way I like to describe it is that I really feel that religious science, which I know that you have some familiarity, you've had Mitch Johnson here, and unity, they are the two larger New Thought denominations.
And people are going, what does New Thought mean? What's that mean?
New Thought simply means an acknowledgement that our minds are very creative, that thought is creative. Any medical professional will tell you at this point that well over 90% of medical conditions do have some origin in thought or belief. And the great experience of the late 1800s, or what Mary Baker Eddy, who began the Christian Science movement, realized that if you can change your thought, you can change your experience.
Change your life.
You can change your life,
yes.
And you can heal your life as well, your body. And that is a work that we continue on. I think that we are a linear descendant of the Christian Science work of Mary Baker Eddy and the philosophy of Ralph Waldo Emerson. New Thought is uniquely American in that regard. It doesn't really exist anywhere else. There's one church in South Africa, there are one or two in England. There's a small study group in Switzerland, small study group in Ukraine. But really, this is a uniquely American phenomenon. And yet the teaching is quite universal. As a speaker or a teacher, because you know in our tradition, in the New Thought tradition, that classwork, ongoing education is a very important part of our experience. That I know at our church we have a class every Sunday morning. There's usually one on a Wednesday morning, and I teach almost every Wednesday night of the year, so that we continue to grow in self-awareness and understand what spiritual principle is. Growing in self-awareness really involves knowing, what am I thinking?
Just being aware, are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Am I thinking?
Yes, literally.
Really?
Yeah.
And am I willing to experience the results of what I'm thinking? And this is the practice of a lifetime. This is how we create, and this is both how we heal. In our bodies, in our careers, in our relationships, and in our personal self-expression, even hobbies, you know, relates to that. So to know that, what am I thinking, knowing that thought is creative, well, you know, the first time, it's not the first time, I'm sorry, but even the Buddha talked about this. The first utterance in the book that's called Dhammapada is that mind is all. What you think, you become. And the Buddha taught about 500 years before Jesus, and then Jesus comes along, a good Jewish prophet, and says, it is done unto you as you believe. So you better know what you're believing in your everyday awareness, and even find a way to examine the content of your subconscious mind.
So what's up here, and then what's really down there, and then...
what's really down there, because what's really down there, like in many of my classes, I always use an image of an iceberg. The everyday conscious awareness that I have, I'm aware that I'm having a nice conversation with Becky, I'm fairly aware of the environment that we're in, but I have an unconscious warehouse which stores all my experiences and all my opinions and all my beliefs, and that's what's really creating the rest of my life, is what is going on in my subconscious mind. Because every thought we have is like it's like a program in your computer that's always running. And sometimes we don't know all the programs that are running, or even with smartphone. Do you have a smartphone?
Oh, yes.
So now we have apps.
Right.
And one of the first things we learned about the apps was that, why is my phone getting slower and slower and slower? Well, how many apps are running? I don't know. How do I find out? Well, on my iPhone, you do a little thing, and then you see, well, I've got 47 apps that are going that I'm not using, but I did yesterday, the day before that, last month. So we have to close all those apps, and that speeds up our process, our utility.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all have apps that are running from the first day of kindergarten.
Right. I was going to say, what about the background, what your mama told you and your daddy told you? And
Here's a funny but true story. Well, I went to Catholic school for a very long time, and we had to wear gray pants, a white or a blue shirt, and a blue blazer every day, kindergarten through senior year in high school.
wow.
When I went to college, I thought, I will never wear gray pants and a blue blazer ever again as long as I live, no matter what. Until I got to a certain point, and I thought, you know what, it's really convenient. But I didn't know that there was a 20-year gap there where I was resisting a simple solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true of all of us in how many ways? 100,000, a million different ways. We formed an opinion when we were 10, and we're still acting out on that, but we don't even remember why. So to bring to the everyday awareness of what it is we think and we really believe, and what it is we hope to achieve, we can unearth some blocks to what we hope to achieve and replace those blocks with a useful tool, or learning something new, getting advice, enrolling in a class, whatever it is that we need to learn. So a lot of new thought, it's not religious, it is spiritual. I feel personally, that there is some power for good in the universe, that it holds the unfolding of the cosmos together. It creates an orderly flourishing of life on this planet. In nature, there is an order, and it is good, it is healthful, it is sustainable. And if it's going to be true, not for this tree because it's plastic, but if it's going to be true for any tree at your house, it's going to be true for me too. But there's a pattern for good and a healthy, sustainable unfoldment for me. And to the degree that I can be in accord with that and not interfere with it and add to it, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have an improved experience of life. And I think that's what people are seeking.
Do you, the Unity Church itself, and particularly we are in the Bible Belt.
Yes, we are.
We are in the Christian Bible Belt. So what would you say to somebody about the philosophy of Jesus in the Unity Church?
Well, Unity, quite specifically, we say that we look at Jesus as elder brother and way shower, and our culture is completely based on the wisdom teachings of Jesus, that they stand strong and they stand alone as a way to show you how to live an effective, gracious, powerful, healed, loving, and creative life. Any of the stories from the gospel, any of the teachings of Jesus, the simple ones, the parables, the what you sow you shall reap, you know, very, very simple, but not simplistic.
So is the Bible being taught in the Unity Church? Are children learning about stories in the Bible?
They are learning stories, and that we do have an adult class that goes on Sunday morning, where a lot of Bible material is being referenced on a regular basis, yes.
Okay.
But we don't use it necessarily as the only revelation. But, you know, Unity started in 1892, and for the most part, the only thing that was in English, in translation, was the Jewish scriptures and the Christian Bible. In our other show, we talked about A Course in Miracles. This is not contrary or exclusive to what we talk about in Unity. The science of mind and what we would talk about in Unity are fairly synonymous. The basic Buddhist teachings as well are fairly synonymous. So are the Vedas as well. There's a thing, I teach from an idea called the perennial philosophy, which is an academic designation. but of the major paths of spiritual pursuit, they do all have several things in common, several features in common.
Mm-hmm.
And one is that there's one ultimate reality, and that all things in the world and in our lives, including our lives, we all rise from this reality, and at some point will be recycled back into that reality. But while we're here, the most important thing we can do is come to a full realization of ourselves as good and as perfect. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Jesus taught. This is what Rabbi Akiba taught. This is what the Buddha taught.
Mm-hmm.
That the greatest thing that can happen is that you would realize your own divinity. That's why our friends in India are always namaste.
Namaste.
Which we know means, I behold that there is something divine in you.
Mm-hmm.
And what a helpful, that's a nice reflection to get back, isn't it?
It's a wonderful thing
Yeah.
to realize that that person across the way, whatever background, is part of the divine,
Right.
and that you are part of them.
Right.
Right.
Because I forget I am, or you might forget you are sometimes.
But we can remind each other.
We remind each other.
Yeah.
And that's spiritual practice. It's not,
right.
It's not that complicated.
Now, again, because we are in the Bible Belt, and I certainly have had people ask me personally, well, if you're not saved by Jesus, then you will go to hell.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a unity reaction to that?
I will be happy to speak for myself, but not for unity.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sure.
To do that? I don't subscribe to some notion of that.
Okay. All right, so that's just not on the table.
That's just not, I call that the nuclear option. The nuclear option is not on my table.
Uh-huh.
No one's going to hell.
Uh-huh.
There's when people say that to me, I respectfully, I've learned to be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, oh, who told you that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you think that?
Mm-hmm.
I was raised Catholic. I had wonderful experience as being raised Catholic at the time that I was.
I was raised Catholic too.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you know about original sin. I don't know if
yes.
Protestants have original sin.
I don't know either.
Yeah, but Catholics, we have original sin. You go to a christening, you see a 10-day-old baby, and you're going to tell a parent that there's something inherently wrong with this baby?
Right.
Who told you that? You don't believe that. No mother believes that about their child.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the 21st century, we can allow ourselves to be a little more sophisticated than the kind of thinking that was important literally in the year 400 when St. Augustine came up with that notion. We don't, that doesn't bless anybody.
What about the word Christ consciousness? What does that say to you?
Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, Krishna consciousness, these are all synonymous expressions. The Quakers might call it the light, that there is that of God, that is you. And that is true of all people. That is where religious science and where unity comes from, for sure. That there is some part of all of us in the amazing complexity of our minds and souls and bodies, the amazing complexity that there is that of God that is perfect. There's a pattern for your unfoldment of you in this lifetime, that you would have an optimal experience of life, and that the things that you would engage in would reveal to you that you are fine the way you are, that you are perfect, whole, complete, lacking nothing, and that you are entitled to a life of joy, which means nothing different than the pursuit of happiness, as we say in our civic documents, that we are entitled to the pursuit of happiness, which is to keep exploring, to keep creating, as long as you're doing something that doesn't diminish the experience of another and it serves your health and wholeness, then have at it. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go for
So
it.
it's a very positive philosophy.
Very positive.
And
Well, either very positive or very obvious.
or obvious?
Very obvious.
How do you mean, obvious?
Well, you know, even Emerson says, I look at the roses beneath my window, they do not compare themselves to each other. They never say, oh, that one's so beautiful and I'm such a loser. Do we ever say that about anything in nature? No. You look at every bird. We have a lot of birds on our campus, which is one of the delights of my life. And I've never seen a bluebird or a woodpecker or a cardinal. I go, behold, every time I see them. Except we never say that about ourselves. How often we look at a sunset and we go, oh my God, that's beautiful, beyond imagining. And I really need to be saying that about you, Becky. You know, to look in your eyes and go, how amazing are you? I mean, when I say obvious, that's what I mean. We work so hard to try and make ourselves not enough.
We work hard to make ourselves not enough.
Don't you think?
How can that be?
It's human condition. It's this part of the brain back here that keeps convincing us to hide or we're going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. To hold back.
And not be the glorified self, and to know that, well, I think the classes that you're talking about, and of course I take classes at Religious Science, it is to increase your consciousness, and you're always going to do that until we leave this plane.
Forever.
Yeah. To learn more and to improve more, or to honor our other people. And lately, with all the politics that's going on, it can be a little difficult to be positive. How do you view the political situation from a personal standpoint? We wouldn't say unity.
From a personal standpoint, which would be in accord with the Jesus teachings, if you would, is resist not. Simply resist not. Because as you sow, you will reap. We live in a world of cause and effect. In this experience, this dimension, this manifestation of time, the world that we live in here, that is time-bound, all things exist in duality, and we live in a world of cause and effect. And if you resist and think that there's something to fight, you will be fighting your whole life. And if you look at a world that you hope for and keep putting our effort into working for that world that we all hope for, then we have a reasonable expectation that we'll be creating something wonderful, rather than fighting or defending our position all the time. I don't have time to defend. Not anymore. I don't want to spend a minute explaining or defending. I need all my creative juice to be creating a life that is still rewarding to me, I'm blessed to say, to be creating a ministry and a church experience that is welcoming, uplifting, and inviting to people, and to be effective in the world at large. It takes, energy to do that and to stay focused. The backfire, I think if we've learned a lot from the recent election, I know that I have, and, the negativity.
On all sides.
On all sides. On all sides. The process is not a place I want to be. It's not a place I want to live. When I first moved to Washington, D.C., I thought that I wanted to be in government service. And as a very young person, I worked part-time in Ted Kennedy's office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when he was very young then.
Wow.
And it was exciting, to be 19 and to.
Wow.
It was a very fast world. But I saw enough, and I thought, no, that's not quite.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't me, Service component, yes, but the arts will always be more important to me.
Mm-hmm. And service has been something that has kept coming up in your life, saying that you wanted that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I am certain that when President Kennedy was elected, that was a big deal for Catholics. It was very affirming. And he invited people into public service, and I think I was probably 9 years old, and there was something in me that thought, yes, that's a noble idea, I will do that. I mean, I really have to say I think that's where that came from.
It's amazing how, as a child, things are implanted for the good, for the
not so good.
and the not so good, and you know, we're all peeling that onion away, and as we continue to get older,
which
and
is
going,
the work of consciousness that you were talking about, the continuing exploration of consciousness. Yeah.
And getting more conscious.
Deep. This content of our consciousness is very deep, but I know that had an imprinting effect on me at that very early age.
Well, if our audience wants to hear you live and in person, tell us where your church is.
The church is at 5125 Franklin Pike, between Harding and Old Hickory Boulevard, just before you get to the north end of Brentwood there. And we meet on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, and our website is www.unityofnashville.org, and I believe right on the front page of the website there's a SoundCloud icon, and all the Sunday talks are listed there, and you could listen to any of the talks. But Sunday morning at 10 o'clock.
Wow, that's excellent. So they can be right in front of their computer and hear you, or they can actually go in front of you live and in person on a Sunday.
All of the above.
Or take classes to learn more about peeling that onion and getting better and better, and learning life can even be better.
Life is always better.
Life
Especially the older you get. Oh my gosh, it is so sweet. If anybody had told me how great it gets when you're over 60.
How great it gets when you're over 60. I love that.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is. Yeah. Wow. Well, John McClain, thank you so much for being on Transitions. We have learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I'm going to go and visit you and see you live and in person too. So thank you. Thank you. Transitions, body, mind, spirit. Have a good evening.